Hello, my name's Bev and I'm the author of the book Please Eat, A Mother's Struggle to Free Her Teenage Son from Anorexia, which describes our family's battle with the deadly eating disorder, anorexia nervosa, which my teenage son Ben developed back in 2009. Welcome to chapter 15, which is called Master of Deception. The trouble with anorexia is that many people just don't get it. As a result, you can feel terribly alone, as if you're living in a parallel world to everyone else. The good news is, though, that Ben's anorexia has meant that we've discovered who our real friends are. Those wonderful, selfless, loving and supportive people who don't just care about what's happening to our family, but who are willing to go through a massive learning curve in an attempt to understand it. Along the line, other friends have moved off the radar, friends who avoid us for whatever reason. Maybe they can't understand, or maybe they just don't want to understand, or perhaps it's because they have their own problems to deal with. Also, anorexia has become such a huge part of my life that I find it difficult to talk about anything else. I have become an anorexia bore. When anorexia dominates your every waking moment, it's virtually impossible to make any social plans. I never know from one day to the next where Ben's mood will take us, usually to hell and back. And to be frank, when I'm in floods of tears most of the time, I'm not very good company. But some people are more than willing to be in on our secret, whatever the cost. And it's around this time that I meet Sue. One Sunday morning, I'm desperate to find a willing ear, someone that will be there for me, who won't mind me ranting on about the eating disorder. Certainly I have my wonderful sister and mum who are highly supportive, but I don't want to overburden them. I decide to give the local church a try. I walk into the building on my own, nervous and anxious, and sit on the back row. A few people stare in my direction, but no one talks to me. I sit there feeling awkward and out of place, my emotions on a roller coaster. I glance over my shoulder at the exit. The door is still wide open. Just a couple of strides and I could be out of the building and back to my car in minutes. The pull is magnetic. I'm about to leave when, out of the corner of my eye, I'm aware of a tiny woman walking quickly down the aisle towards me, a huge smile on her face. She introduces herself as Sue and invites me to sit with her. Over the next 24 months, Sue will become my best and most supportive friend. I think the main reason Sue gets it is because of the cancer, secondary breast cancer that spread to her bones, liver and lungs. Over coffee after the service, we sidestep the small talk and get straight to the heart of the matter. Within minutes I feel as if I've known Sue forever. I know all about her cancer and she knows all about anorexia. No chit-chat, no trivia, no small talk. Sue has well and truly taken me under her wing. The thing about Sue is that, no matter how bad her own prognosis, she is always cheerful and smiling and positive about the future. She also has a knack of turning the focus onto me and my problems, eager to learn all about Ben and his illness. She doesn't stop until she understands everything. Please don't ever think that your stress is any less than mine, she says, when I tell her off for focusing on my problems instead of hers. My problems are different, and to be honest, it helps to talk about something other than cancer. I spend many an hour in Sue's sitting room while she plies me with coffee and cake, no matter what the problem, or what time of day or night. She makes sure I know she is there for me. Sue is an angel in the truest sense. Help comes from another quarter in spring 2010 when I stumble across an online forum called Around the Dinner Table and its parent website, Feast, which stands for Families Empowered and Supporting Treatment of Eating Disorder. The ATDT Around the Dinner Table Forum offers advice and support for parents of young people with eating disorders. It has members, moderators and mentors from every English-speaking country in the world. From the very first moment I discover it, I know I've struck gold. At last I'm amongst other parents who are going through the same kind of nightmare. Many have already come through it, and I read their success stories over and over again. It quickly becomes clear that this is no ordinary internet forum. Sure, we all have our own online nicknames, but before long we are making friends on Facebook under our real names. We email, Skype, talk on the phone and, wherever possible, meet up in person, compare notes and offer each other mutual support. ATDT and the friends I make through it will become a lifeline for me. One lunchtime, I make Ben a sandwich from some leftover roast beef. Bad mistake. The beef is dripping in fat. This is followed by one of those pointless going round in circles and getting nowhere arguments as I try to reason with the irrational demon. When we get to Cam's on Friday and I've put on loads of weight because of your extreme diet plan, it'll be all your fault, he screeches. I'm going to make sure Cams know how much you're mistreating me and trying to fatten me up. They'll be horrified, especially now my weight is healthy. I just don't need all this stuff. Fine, okay, you tell them, see if I care, I respond. I'm in one of those at the end of my tether moods. He charges upstairs and slams his bedroom door while I head off to the sanctuary of my vegetable patch to watch the potatoes growing. I dream of large jacket potatoes stuffed with bacon, butter and cheese and served with a side of barbecue beans and coleslaw, made with high-fat mayo naturally, none of that confounded extra light stuff. Later Ben comes downstairs and sits beside me, head on my shoulder and silent. It's his way of letting me know that the rages aren't him, they're the demon, and he is sorry for upsetting me. These incidents are like the eye of the storm, an oasis of calm, where we can attempt to get our heads back into gear, ready for the next onslaught. On the social front, we chalk up a success, or at least that's how it appears on the surface. Ben's booked himself onto a history conference in a nearby city. His schoolmates are going too. I drop him off mid-morning. It's pouring with rain, so I decide to go shopping at the designer outlet on the other side of the city. The only trouble is everyone else seems to have had the same idea. I can't find a parking space, so I end up back at the school where the conference is being held. It's not worth driving the 20 miles back home, so I sit and wait for it to finish. Although it's Saturday, there are plenty of people around. A rugby match is just ending and the opposition's transport is waiting to take them home. I remember Ben playing rugby here once. I watch the boys as they head for the changing rooms, the rain making muddy streaks down their arms and legs. Once they're showered and changed, I expect they'll head for the canteen for a slap-up lunch before they go home. Probably burgers, chips and beans, followed by pudding and custard. Oh, I remember those Saturday rugby lunches well. Ben and the other boys tucking in enthusiastically while the parents snacked on a sandwich lunch in the school hall. Home matches were the best. Ben's school laid on a splendid spread for the parents. Mrs. F's homemade cookies and cakes were legendary, as were her scones and sandwiches. You could rely on the rugby boys to hoover up anything that was left over when they joined their parents in the school hall, showered, squeaky clean and well fed, dressed in their smart school uniforms, dragging holdalls of evil-smelling rugby kit behind them. I remember the compost-like smell of muddy rugby kit. Back home I'd attempt to clean off some of the dirt under the outside tap before rinsing thoroughly and throwing into the washing machine. Ben could sort out his rugby boots. I refused to touch those. Good grief, whoever thought that white rugby shorts were a good idea? Suddenly, I'm jolted back to the present by the sound of a text coming in on my mobile phone. I freeze. That's the standard reaction these days, especially when I see it's from Ben. But it's only to ask me to drive round to the front of the building to pick him up. Outside the ancient hall with its leaded windows and fancy Tudor brickwork, I'm delighted to see Ben hugging everyone goodbye, just like any normal teenager. Driving back home, the talk is all positive. Ben is making plans. He'll contact so-and-so, and yes, he gets on quite well with some of the kids in the year below, so maybe he'll go round with them at school. Indeed, it looks as if a return to school is on the cards. But of course, the anorexia demon lies and deceives. It lulls you into a false sense of security. It has you completely fooled while it continues to do its dirty work. One night, shortly after the conference, Ben has a total and utter meltdown. He goes to pieces and becomes a sobbing, emotional wreck. He's been subdued all day, and I can tell something is wrong. All hell breaks loose during the evening meal. "Stop it!" I shout as I chase him into the living room, where he begins to viciously hammer his skull against the wall. "It's only the anorexia doing this, not you, not the real Ben." "No, Mum, can't you see?" he howls, thumping his fists against the radiator as he crumples to the ground in a quivering heap of hot tears. "It's not the anorexia. This is the real Ben, the real me that you're seeing. The calm, cooperative Ben that you sometimes see is the anorexia pretending to be me. This wreck that you see here, this is the real me." I've never seen him like this before. It's as if his body and spirits have been completely broken, and what is left is a brittle, empty shell. He pulls his body into the fetal position on the floor, sobbing wildly. Through the gulps and tears, the real Ben confesses that he's been lying and play-acting. He's been pulling the wool over Cam's eyes so they believe they're seeing progress. "You see, Mum, that isn't me, it's the anorexia. It is pure acting. It isn't me." He confesses that he's been cheating on portion sizes and doing secret exercising. Lots of exercising. "All I think about is food and exercise, morning, noon and night. I can't think of anything else. The hours in between meals are just blanks to fill in until the next meal." "But what about our walks in the countryside?" I ask. "I only do that to burn calories," he shrieks, the hysteria rising. "You think we're having a nice jolly time walking and talking, but that's not me either. It's the anorexia. It's kidding you, Mum. It's kidding everyone. Remember the history conference? I kept having to go to the toilets and exercise. I had no choice. Don't you see, while the others were having coffee or finishing their lunch, I was punching the air in the gents and frantically running on the spot. I need to tell Cams urgently, but we're not seeing them for another 2 weeks. Meanwhile, I'm battling to keep Ben on the straight and narrow while he resists the eating plan and threatens to tell on me to Sarah and Linda. The demon is stronger than ever, despite the real Ben's desperate confession. I begin to wonder how a 60-minute treatment session every week or fortnight will rid Ben of this terrifying illness. When, for God's sake, does the change take place? How does it take place? Do Cams just talk and talk to him until, like magic, it suddenly begins to make sense? Some days, in fact most days, I fear that the anorexia is here to stay. I have visions of Ben ending up like those young people that are still sick well into their late 20s and beyond. This is reinforced by the fact that Ben has begun to rebel against what's left of the tweaked eating plan. He's also body-checking more than ever, refusing to eat any fats of any sort and constantly arguing with Paul and me, the old irrational arguments that are a complete waste of time. I feel as if everything we've achieved has been given a real kicking as the eating disorder tries to get control again and suck Ben down, deep, deep down into the abyss until he's too far gone to climb out again. But despite this, there is the odd chink of sunlight. One morning, Ben surprises me by eating a peanut butter covered cinnamon and raisin bagel for breakfast. Then he goes to town and buys himself a mid-morning snack and a lunch, even offering to send me photographs to prove it. His idea, not mine. Finally, he arrives home with a chocolate bar. He's also come home armed with gifts he's bought with his pocket money to say thank you for putting up with me through all of this. I wipe a tear from my eye and give my far too thin but still beautiful son a great big bear hug. You know what, I say, the best gift of all will be when you are completely recovered and we get our little boy back. We continue to hug each other, tears streaming down our faces. That's the end of chapter 15. Thank you for listening. If you want to go on to chapter 16, you'll find a video link right at the end of this video. Chapter 16 is called Big Bad Mum. It would also be really good if you could like this video, and you can subscribe to my channel by clicking the subscribe button below. Oh, and don't forget to visit my blog. You'll find the link below. You'll also find a link to my website where you can download PDFs of my blog for free.